Good morning, and thank you for joining us for session 2 of Inside 1080 District Assembly. As you will know, this afternoon we have the funeral of His Royal Highness Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. He's been associated with a number of Rotary clubs and certainly a member of some in our district. So as we did last week, we will have a 1-minute silence out of respect. Thank you. Last week, we heard from RI President-elect Sheikha Mehta about his theme, Serve to Change Lives, and also his membership challenge of Each One Bring One. We also heard from RI Director-elect Nikki Scott, and she talked about the changes that are happening in Rotary, which will help us improve our efficiency and make us ready for the future of Rotary. And the overall message that certainly came through was there is total support from everyone to grow Rotary in the coming year. Last week's session and all the sessions that we'll have in this assembly will be available on the website rotaryeastanglia.co.uk. So please look there to catch up. This morning we'll hear from 2 team leaders who will be working on our team next year on their view and the challenges for us. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A feature. First is Paul Wilkinson, and Paul is our new membership team leader. Paul is going to now give us a presentation, and afterwards I will ask Paul to come and join us for questions afterwards. Thank you.
Have you ever wondered about the answer to this particular question? Well, here's one way you might go about it.
Now, I'm going to tell you something. I'm single, and I wear my Rotary pin all the time. And so when I'm out, when I'm out, and women ask me, single women ask me, what's that pin for? My elevator speech is different for them. And yours would be too. So, if it's a Rotarian or a prospective Rotarian asking me about the pin, I'll say to them, they'll say, what's the pin for? And I say, well, that's a Rotary pin. And what do you think 99% of the people say right after that? You've been there a million times. They say, what is Rotary? And to that I say, Rotary is the best decision I've ever made. And what do you think they say to that? Now this is a key moment, you guys, because I am no longer selling them Rotary. They're interested in Rotary, you understand? And if you're in sales, you know it's much better if the other person's asking for the product or the salesperson by name than the salesperson thrusting the product down the other person's throat, right? So when he says, what's Rotary? Rotary's the best decision I ever made. Why is that, right? And I say, well, because it's bigger than anything I've ever done in my life. It's allowed me to be a complete human being. And I really enjoy it. And and by the way, if you're married, you probably can't say it's the best decision you've ever made. I'm not going to do any better than that, man.
So we're looking at retention and recruitment. If I was going to write a report, just like I used to write school reports, I think I'd have to start with must do better as we carry on with our membership drive. And I need to mention straight away that Robert Lovatt has agreed to become my vice chair of membership, which was one of the key reasons I accepted the role moving forward. Our district governor-elect Ian highlighted last week that the big issue, the target, the goal is membership. And I first of all want to show this morning as to why membership is that big issue. And it's important for me as well, because this sets out where we are as I start as chair of membership. And certainly looking at what's been going on over the last 11 years, then it should be a cause for concern. Other chairs of membership in other districts are telling me that incoming president-elects are not aware of the issues of membership generally. So I think it's important that I share this with you, having been given access to all the data since I took on the role. And what concerns me particularly here is that, yes, we've lost 11 clubs in 11 years, but we've lost 7 in the last 4, and that is a concern. And at that same time, we've only created 1 new club. So retention is an issue, clearly, and so is recruitment. Where are we now with our numbers? Well, this is the figure that I've been given as being up to date. Our current membership sits at 1547. Now, you might think, well, that doesn't look too bad. We've only lost around 50 members since the start of the Rotary year compared to 80 odd the previous year. But so far this Rotary year, we've recruited 30 new members across the district, but those 30 are included in the 1547. So we've lost another 80 plus already during the current Rotary year. What's happening? The numbers at the top, I'm not too concerned with, but it's the numbers at the bottom which gave me serious pause for concern. We've lost 356 members since 2015 after they've only been in Rotary for 24 months. Now, that clearly is a problem. And when we look at the reasons for leaving, personal comes up as the most frequent one. Now, that hides a multitude of sins, really. It doesn't really tell us a great deal. Other chairs of membership tell me that a lot of that is down to unmet expectations. And maybe that's something to do with losing a lot of those early Rotarians. The second chief reason I can't do much about, nor can anybody else. But the third chief reason people are leaving is a work obligation. And I'll come back to the work obligation against a Rotary commitment during this presentation. Now, currently, when I look at the data that's available, these are the figures I find for our ages. But the biggest problem I have is that almost a third of our members, the ages are not recorded. So if I'm expected to come up with ideas and strategies to move forward, I really do need to know what the age breakdown is within our district. It could be that those third of members that I don't know their ages are aged 20 to 30. Highly unlikely, I know, but we do need to know that. So I would urge club secretaries to get the information put into the system so that will give us a far better picture. And if you're thinking about recruitment, well, there's a very clear message in the figures about where there are recruitment opportunities. And in the south of England, east of England, which covers most of our region, then we have not done particularly well in that area. Looking at the bigger picture, we're not alone. The problem of numbers goes across Britain and Ireland. My biggest concern, though, is the prediction. One of the coordinators who helped with my training, a bit of a statistician, has calculated that if we continue to lose members at the rate we are doing, then you can see that in 10 years' time we'll be half the number. That is of concern. And in a response, if every new club does that target of 3 new clubs in 10 years, we will still only stand still. So the old adage is about, well, it'll be all right, something will turn up. Well, I'm afraid not. The doing nothing option is no longer viable. We need to be doing something about this. I know that our district governor-elect Ian last week talked about taking risks. Well, risk maybe can be seen as a positive and a negative. For me, I would certainly say take a chance as we move forward, because the good old days of Rotary, those halcyon days when people were queuing up to join us, are no longer here. Asking for people's CVs, having interview panels, getting club approval. If we're still in that mode, then we're putting a barrier in the way of getting people into Rotary, because this is the new reality. This is the queue of people waiting to get into the clubs. And is that the sign that we might be worried about? Because that sign has cropped up on 11 places in District 1080 in the last 11 years. I don't want to see any more of those signs coming into our area. Now, it's interesting that one of the mantras is we must do more to grow more. And yet, with the way the numbers are going, it means everybody who's left behind in Rotary is going to have to do even more. Is that a problem for those with the work obligation? If we have less members just trying to do the same, let alone do more, unless, of course, we can improve our community engagement level. So moving forward, getting, if you like, away from a bit of negative, going into the positive. But as well as attracting new members, we need to retain our current members. There's a clear message in the data that I've shared with you. And let me introduce you to my good friend, Conan the Rotarian. Every club should have one. It's probably your chair of membership. And if you're taking the advice and guidance of Tom Griffin, who talks about refresh, revitalise and renew, then Conan the Rotarian will be the person to lead forward. But every Rotarian should become Conan the Rotarian. It's not just your chair of membership's task. So as we're moving forward, if we're able to diversify, because every club will have had a discussion, hopefully, about their lifestyle choices and about how they're going to operate. People are looking for causes to follow and believe. So maybe this is something clubs can look forward to. And if you have taken that opportunity, if you have refreshed and revitalized and renewed, is there that opportunity to go back to people you've spoken to in the past who maybe weren't quite so keen on joining Rotary? But now, if we're offering Rotary Light, will they be a little bit more excited about the prospect of joining Rotary? It may be possible to have those discussions again with the people you know. It has been a concern that a number of us have heard about people leaving Rotary because they're not having fun anymore. Well, that was one of the reasons I joined Rotary, and I'm still having fun. So I would hope that every club is looking to build into their 21-22 program aspects of fun. Are you using social media? My own club do. And in a normal year at Christmas, we will have between 5,000 and 10,000 hits on our Santa sleigh. The question is, do we get the most out of those 5,000 to 10,000 hits? I'm not sure we do, and that's something that my own club need to be looking at. What about your club website? Have you got somebody poring over it, trying to keep it up to date? This is particularly important if you've got people expressing an interest in your club, finding them quickly, getting in touch with them as early as possible. And if you're really lucky, maybe one of your grandchildren will be coming round in the near future, and they will certainly help you in some way. But so can the district if necessary. And what about Zoom? If I'd suggested to clubs, we'll use Zoom 18 months ago, I'd probably have been laughed out of court. But now the majority are using Zoom, nearly everybody. The number of 70-year-olds and 70 plus, their percentage of use of Zoom has more than trebled during the last 12 months. There are obviously opportunities of getting speakers from further afield than just your local gene pool. And if you're a club that's been in existence for many years, the opportunity to broaden that horizon must be appealing. Are we offering value for money and time? The value for money. I've seen some of the adverts that have been prepared for Rotary saying it only costs a cup of coffee a week to be a Rotarian. That may be true, but it wouldn't be true in a town where the club meet every week, where they have a meal every week, where they have a happy and a sad pound, where they have a raffle every month, all of a sudden the cost goes up more and exponentially. And are we making good use of our time? Are we time efficient users when we come to our meetings and the way we operate at clubs? And our flexibility. We haven't all got a castle on the hill like Framlingham, unfortunately, or we can't meet in caverns or Grimes Graves or on a beach. Maybe we haven't got a park on our doorstep, but can we think of ways to operate just a little bit differently that might be a little bit more fun for our members and prospective members? So as I come towards the end of my message to clubs, thinking about the way forward, I particularly would need, and Robert would need, to be in touch with the membership chair, a named person that we can be in touch with. Thinking of some of the articles I've written in the Rotary, have you put a strategy together? Have you had your lifestyle choice discussion about how you're going to operate? The second bullet point here is particularly important. I was asked in a couple of my presentations to clubs recently about, well, what's RI doing for us? What are they sending us? Have they got the 5 main reasons we should join, people should join Rotary? What about RGBI? What are they doing for us? Well, again, as part of my training, I'm told that only half the Rotarians in Britain and Ireland have a My Rotary account. And I can assure you that if you have a My Rotary account, you can find a plethora of information about all aspects of Rotary, including membership and recruitment, which will be of real use to you. There's also now a Facebook Grow Rotary group, and the information is there, and that will obviously be available to everybody. And at the bottom of the page, there is a small fund available if you're running some sort of membership recruitment activities and need some help. Please get in touch with us. Also, Robert and myself working in the background. If you aren't already using social media at your club but would like to, let us know. We are hoping to put something in place to help you. And if you've already got a social media platform, you're already using social media, but you're not convinced you're getting the most out of it, please come back to us and let us know. We can organise that as well for you. Robert and I are looking at different projects, fundraising and community-based. We've had access to analysis that has been completed in District 1120 down in London and the Kent area, which we'll hope to share with you in the coming weeks. DGE Ian mentioned Rotaract and moving forward. Well, we're in discussion with the National Citizen Scheme, again, to try and move that initiative forward. Ambassadors you know about, seeking opportunities to create new clubs, especially in those 11 areas that have lost clubs. That's certainly something we want to do. The Norfolk Chamber of Commerce, we've renewed our membership and we'll be looking for ways to make better use of that in terms of getting the Rotary message out into our business community. And clearly time is coming after the 21st of June where Robert and I and other district officers will be able to come and see you in person, which will be wonderful, of course. So for a better, brighter Rotary future, not forgetting, of course, the district forum on October the 23rd, I offer you a final short video clip about Rotary membership in any town.
As Rotary, we often ask ourselves, how do we grow? Personally, professionally, and organizationally? The answer is simple. To grow Rotary, we need more Rotary clubs. Let's use Anytown as an example. Anytown is a city of 100,000 people and home to one proud Rotary club. But there are hundreds of other people of action, just like us, who are uniquely qualified to become Rotary members. They share the same drive and represent the values and fundamentals of a Rotary member. So why aren't they members? Well, the current club meets on Monday. There are leaders in Anytown who can't meet on a Monday. By excluding this segment, the potential members in Anytown has shrunk. Now consider, what if the meeting is at noon on Monday? There are people who can meet on Monday, but can't meet at noon. So now we have a smaller audience for Rotary in Anytown. Of the remaining group, some aren't interested in a club with a sit-down lunch and speakers. They are passionate about service, but aren't interested in a traditional club experience. And that is okay. The Rotary Club of Anytown isn't doing anything wrong. It just doesn't appeal to particular segments of the community. And if we're going to thrive for years to come, we must adapt and embrace change. In any town, we have an opportunity to expand because potential members are everywhere. More than half of the eligible people are prospective Rotary members, waiting to make a bigger impact in their community. But what Rotary Club exists for them? If any town creates new clubs at new times and new places, the hidden potential for Rotary will be revealed. As people of action, we must broaden our reach and provide opportunities to all leaders in the community. Together, all of us can grow Rotary.
And if we can grow crocuses, let's grow Rotary as well. If you've managed to say awake, thanks for listening, keep safe.
Thank you. Now, perhaps if Paul would like to join us and also Robert Lovick, then we will have a discussion and go through some of the questions that we've had.
I think there's a need to retain it, especially for those people who are busy. I think the opportunity for speakers from a much wider field. I know in Lowestoft, the clubs in Lowestoft have been, well, had one club running for over 80 years. So you tend to recycle speakers over a period of time. So the opportunity to go much wider afield nationally and internationally, getting speakers through Zoom must be appealing. A potential downside may be to what people call the hybrid meeting, where you meet in person. And I think everybody's pretty desperate for that. I know I am. I suppose the fear is, would it encourage members not to bother to come along to the actual meeting and just sit at home and press a button and join in from their lounge at home? I think in the first instance, people will turn up to clubs because that's what we're desperately keen on. In the longer term, clubs will have to monitor how it works for them and their own membership, because clearly the issue about membership is at club level, and that's where the answers are. So clubs will need to operate in the best way that suits all their members.
Right. I don't know if you want to add anything, Robert, to that.
I concur obviously with Paul. I think with Zoom now, there's every opportunity to run a lot of committee meetings via Zoom. I think there's a lot of mileage in that. And again, what Paul said, why don't we bring in the Zoom process, doing a face-to-face meeting, which again is fellowship is very important, more so now, after we come out of COVID. So I think there's opportunities to embrace Zoom. Speakers from not necessarily the UK, but around the world. So I think the world is our oyster. Thank you.
Right, I just add on to that, if it's okay. Just been talking to Anne Geimer, who's our leadership development and training lead, and we've been looking at this, and hopefully next month, with social distancing allowed, then we're looking to set up a meeting, which would be a hybrid meeting, and use it as a workshop and let people come in and put the technology together. So I think it would be a great opportunity to show people how it could work. But obviously it's an area that a lot of people are asking about. Just moving on quickly, Paul, you mentioned Rotary Light.
Yeah.
I've had the question, what is Rotary Light? That's quite short, sharp.
Yeah. Rotary Light effectively is where those working people haven't got the time to give to it what I might call the traditional club, say meet every week, have a meal every week, etc. And then on top of that, get together to do projects. There are people out there who don't have the time to come to all the meetings, but maybe they want to do the service above self aspect. They would like to go and do a little bit on a Saturday morning and a beach clean on a Sunday afternoon with their families. And if that's what they're doing, but not coming to a meeting every week, that's Rotary Light. It's the opportunity to be in Rotary without having to meet every single week for a couple of hours. Something different.
Great. There's another question here very quickly. How could I use my Velomobile ride to the Glasgow climate talks to recruit new members? I think that's probably a question that we could also put into the environment group, but I guess it links into what you're talking about, social media, because there's a great opportunity for publicity there. I don't know if you would agree with me, or it's an opportunity to disagree with me.
I think everything that Rotary does is about an opportunity. The skill, the trick of it will be making the most of whatever it is that we're doing, which is what Rotary has not been good at in the past. We've not been good at advertising everything we do. So I think that's certainly the way forward. We've got to be better at it. I'm not an expert in that field. I'm not necessarily an expert in any field, but I think we do have to concentrate on that. And within the team of people that we have, I'm sure there will be some experts who will advise and guide us in making the best use of every opportunity in order to put the name of Rotary out there into the public domain.
Great, thanks. We've got time just for a couple more questions and a quick sort of follow-up from Rotary Light. The follow-up question was, would Rotary Light members pay smaller subscriptions?
As far as I'm aware, the subscriptions stay the same for everybody. But if you think of that advert that said, you know, it only costs a cup of coffee a week. So if you pay £10 a month, you can be a Rotarian. Whether you pay monthly or annually, that's not a problem, but it is £10 a month. It's the cost that escalates where you're meeting all the time. So the cost of actually joining Rotary has for a long time been about £10 a month. It's the extra cost that the way clubs operate that actually adds to it. So Rotary Light, it can be the same as any club. And there are going to be offers of online. I'm going to do some training myself and find out about something called the Global Hub and the possibility of having a district passport club. More on that to come later when I know more about it myself.
I think Rotary Light, we tried, which was very successful, a podcast about the multi-district President-elect's training, and I feel a Rotary Light podcast coming on, Paul. So perhaps we could look at that and get together and produce something that would answer some of the questions. There was a question about what clubs who have made net gains or clubs that have started, what are they doing that the rest of us are not doing? That's a good question, I think.
Well, one of the issues for me is I'm new to sort of being a district officer, so I've got to get to know the district. Yes, I can look in the data. There's so much of it, I could spend hours on it and miss all sorts of things. But over the coming weeks and months, I will get to know much more about the district. I will be able to pick up on the clubs that have been very successful in terms of their membership. Clearly, we do not have many of them because the numbers as a district tell us we don't have many. So that's something. I believe we do have, there's a club in Ipswich doing well. I think there's a club, Kings Linway, doing well. And over time, when I get the opportunity to spend time with them and maybe get them to share what they're doing, it's not for them to tell me, for me to tell everybody. But if we can get them to tell people what they're doing that works well for them in their town, and that's something else. In any area, it's knowing your own area and the people in your area and what works for them. So what works in Ipswich may not work in Lowestoft or may not work in Galston or Yarmouth. So you have to know your own area and the people you're trying to attract.
Okay, I think we really only have time for one more question. Otherwise, we'll be edging foundation into tomorrow. There's lots of questions here, and I apart from podcasts, I see a membership workshop or two coming along. So we'll have to talk about being able to do that so people ask questions. But it's great so many people are interested in what's such an important issue. The last one I leave, and it's sort of a yes/no question, but I'm sure other people will be thinking about it. We talk about the way we can encourage new members to join Rotary with changes in membership requirements concerning attendance and so on. But the Rotary Constitution and the rules that I see do not reflect the changes we are trying to promote. Are the rules and Constitution being looked at and updated to reflect our new message?
Well, one of my biggest beefs about Rotary is this business that Rotary International and the rule makers meet every, is it 2 or 3 years? So they're always behind the time. Ever since I've been involved as a Rotary ambassador, everybody says, think outside the box, do things differently. So whatever's written in the Constitution, and I can remember somebody waving it at me once about the Constitution, there are no Rotary police. Nikki Scott will emphasise that when you listen to her. So there won't be any Rotary police as I'm aware of in District 1080. So whatever the Constitution says, it's about recruiting members. And that will certainly be my goal, as well as retaining members, because clearly we've not been good at that either. I would just finally say, if that's the last one, all the questions that are not getting answered now, if Ian sort of gets them to me or I pick them up somehow, I will respond, because I know some people like Willem sent one in, and I will respond to everybody in the coming days as I pick up on the questions.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Paul. And it was great that you mentioned the fact that last week, Nikki Scott especially gave us, the encouragement that, that Rotary is reorganizing itself in a big way to help us to manage the I'm just looking at that, to actually manage the way that we can grow Rotary. So I think that's all positive. Can I also say that one or two people have put their hands up or are trying to use chat, and chat doesn't work, and neither do putting your hands up. Please use the Q&A. Anyway, thank you, Paul and Robert. If you would like to leave the stage, as they say, that would be great. And could we move on to Foundation? And I would like to ask somebody who we probably all do know as our DG, Jonathan King, but Jonathan has very kindly offered to take on the role of Foundation team leader for the coming Rotary year. So I pass over to Jonathan.
Thank you, Ian, and good morning to everybody. This morning, my presentation will be focusing on how we can improve our knowledge and understanding of the Rotary Foundation, both within our clubs and ourselves. And of course, we need to expand our reach into our communities and engage our club members to take action, to improve our public image and increase our appeal to the public and attract new members and increase donations. And this is why it's very appropriate that I'm following on from Paul's presentation about membership, because that is absolutely everything. But of course, the foundation, of the pun, of the whole of the Rotary International is our own, the Rotary Foundation. And we do spend lots of times talking about charities, but ultimately we must not forget our own charity. And so we must continue to focus on increasing donations, but we can do that best when we're in the community, looking for new members. New people joining clubs have great ideas and can drive us forward. So before my presentation starts, I'd like to give credit to Steve Munns, whose videos that I'm now, the slides I'm now going to show, were largely prepared and slightly altered by me with his permission. So thank you very much. The Rotary Foundation. What does the foundation mean to you and your club? Our own charity funds grants. When we've asked this question, we've had various responses. The Rotary Foundation is Rotary's own charity, and all Rotarians are encouraged to donate it. Some people say the foundation transforms our dreams into splendid realities. Or the Rotary Foundation is the economic engine for Rotary International. Some members seem to be unaware. Probably so are the public. We must communicate better at Rotary events. Let's find out. The Rotary Foundation, what is it? Mission statement. Most organisations have a mission statement. The Rotary Foundation helps Rotarians to advance world understanding, goodwill and peace by improving health, providing quality education, improving the environment, and alleviating poverty. Our Rotary Foundation is unique. Our foundation is unique because it belongs to Rotarians and is dedicated to furthering Rotary programs that address the greatest needs around the world. This is why we really do need to encourage each other and our friends to give donations to the Rotary Foundation. The Rotary Foundation has 7 areas of focus. The 6 original ones being peace building, disease prevention, water sanitation, maternal and child health, basic education and literacy, community and economic development. And within the last year, we have added supporting the environment. And indeed, with our own Keith Tovey, who's been a great leader in this. And we believe with all of these areas of focus, we can focus on improving the world. And indeed, many of our grants and global grants go towards these things. And in fact, they are all the tests of whether a grant is worthy of giving. Does it supply these areas of focus? The new environment focus is, of course, a great opportunity for new, younger members to form cause-based clubs. It would appeal to Rotaractors, but actually anybody of any age has an interest in the environment. The Rotary Foundation, the funds that are well known to most people, but we need to remind ourselves, there's the annual fund. This is money that can be given by Rotarians, either on a regular basis or through donations to support Rotary today. This is money that goes forward to do lots of our projects. Then there's the endowment fund. This is where people can donate money or bequeath money, or they give donations that will go on after they have left this world. Then, of course, we have Polio Plus. And Polio Plus, let's remember, the plus is beyond just polio. And this is the fund that we use to help us end polio now, that we're so close to achieving. Why support the Rotary Foundation over other charities? Well, there are 7 good reasons. Our administration costs are very low. All the projects are in the hands of Rotarians, both locally and abroad. And indeed, we have a cadre which can help check abroad or at home where projects are taking place. We can decide where our projects are situated. Rotarians decide how the funds are spent. Donations can go to the area of focus of your choice. The capital of an endowment is never spent. Our gifts can be contributed to in many ways. Another good reason why support the Rotary Foundation over other charities, the Charity Navigator 4-star charity. For the 12th consecutive year, the Rotary Foundation has received the highest rating, confirmation of exceedingly high standards in the industry, reflecting well on Rotary. This slide shows quite clearly that there is even more recognition around the world. What does the Foundation give us? Well, it's support for our humanitarian projects. These pictures are quite clear, the things that can be done around the world, saving people that fit well within our areas of focus, both internationally and in local communities. The Foundation does funding for Rotary Scholars. 350,000 scholarships have been awarded by Rotary. On average, $7.5 million in scholarships are given out by Rotary each year. In District 1080, we have attracted scholars from all over the world, and in 2020-21, 10 global scholars, including students from Australia, Japan, the USA. 8 are at Cambridge University and 2 at the UEA. We also involve ourselves with funding Peace Fellows. And as you're probably aware, we have Pat Webb in our district, who's very, very keen on supporting the Peace Scholars. And we recently had a presentation from our current distanced Peace Scholar, Chris Piper. He presented to us at our recent district council meeting. Rotary Foundation funding often leads to lots of questions, and I would like to point out that this point is often made by Rotarians, is that the Rotary Foundation is very difficult to understand, especially the fundings. It needn't be a mystery. We can all learn a lot more by logging on to My Rotary. Go to the Learning Centre. This will give you up-to-date information on how the funding is spent, and the graphs are available to be seen. The funding groupings we have, as we've spoken before, we have the annual fund, we have the district designated fund, which drops into the World Fund. The annual fund is, as some of you will remember, is invested for 3 years and then comes back to support our Rotary grants. We do, of course, have another fund which we ask clubs to support. That's the End Polio Now Fund. The target here is $50 million, so that triggers the Gates 2-to-1 contribution, which is raising huge amounts of money. Why should you encourage giving to the annual fund? Well, some clear reasons here. The less that's given, the less we receive back in 3 years as designated district funds, resulting in a smaller fund pot available, etc. Now, it's very important here, therefore, that if we don't give, we cannot get anything back in 3 years' time. And there's a domino effect that will land up with us getting less money for our grants. As club presidents and foundation leaders, one of your responsibilities is to encourage others to contribute to the Rotary Fund. All Rotarians can support them. I've explained what the Rotary Foundation does, but you don't all need to know how to prepare grant applications or organise funding for your projects. These technicalities are the province of your Club Rotary Foundation officer. They work with the District Rotary Foundation Chair to help fund our club fund projects. For those that really need to know more, again, as I said earlier, use your My Rotary Learning Centre for foundation knowledge. Remember, first we need to contribute funds to foundation. You do not need to be the expert, but the more you know, the better you can persuade donors. So finally, all 1080 Rotarians, please take action. Make an impact now and forever. The Rotary Foundation took action to the pandemic, awarding 319 COVID-19 specific global grants worth $7.9 million a year ago. To date, we have further awarded 317 global grants worth $24.1 million, a total now of $32 million. Amazing achievement. But it brings me back to the question. These grants are from funds raised by Rotarians all over the world. How much did your club donate, I wonder? Some clubs in 1080 gave nothing last year. I wonder why. Please remember, the Rotary Foundation is our charity. Thanks for listening to me.
Thank you, Jonathan. And I think it would be good to have Derek come up and join us as well for questions. I think one question, well, in fact, I've had a few questions in advance, and your slide that said it can be a little confusing. One of the questions was about how global grants work and how global grants work with different clubs and where district fits into that. And without reading some of the questions that I can understand, there's about 3 or 4 paragraphs of question. Perhaps that is a short enough question for you to be able to answer and just put into perspective how that all works, if that makes sense.
Should I have a go at that, Ian, then?
Yeah.
Great stuff. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
As far as the grants are concerned, I think it'd be useful if I just read a couple of extracts from some Rotary documentation. District grants are block grants to districts that fund scholarships, projects and travel that align with the mission of the Rotary Foundation, which is to enable Rotarians to advance world understanding, goodwill and peace through the improvement of health, the support of education, the alleviation of poverty. Global grants fund scholarships, projects, vocational training teams and some travel within the 7 areas of focus that are sustainable, measurable and host community driven. What that says is, this is what district grants are, this is what global grants are. Now, if I just go and fill some of the gaps in, if I can. The question was principally about global grants, and there's a very important paragraph I'd like to read now. Global grants are sponsored by at least one Rotary Club or district in the country where the grant project will take place, and one or more outside that country. Those are called the primary international sponsors, the previous the whole sponsor. An exception to this policy are made for projects taking place in non-Rotary countries where an RI board is actually pursuing extension. That is, they're saying that District 1080 can't create a global grant by itself without support from some other Rotary Club in another country. And I think that is often not very well understood. A global grant has a minimum spend of $30,000 US as well. So it's a large thing. Whereas our district grants, that is an amount of money which is available to the district foundation chair, in this case Jonathan, to decide how he allocates it. So far, and of course he could change this, so far we've been awarding grants of up to £500 per club for eligible projects, and the projects are eligible based on the Rotary Foundation rules. Does that help, Ian?
Yeah, I think so. Do you want to add anything, Jonathan? I'm sure that a short answer also is, and thank you for that explaining it, but a short answer is, if you have any doubt, phone Jonathan or phone Derek before the end of this Rotary year as well. But anything to add, Jonathan?
Well, I can add to that because next Saturday we have the Grants Fair, which has been advertised. And I think, Ian, you said you're going to send out another reminder later today. And this is a place where, firstly, you can take your proposed grants to the group, but also for anybody else to join to listen and expand their knowledge. But equally, as I've said before, if you can go to My Rotary and the Learning Centre and then go on to Foundation, some of the things that Derek just explained there are there for you to look at. And so there is an element of self-help. But as Steve Munns has been saying to me as I've been learning, you know, that the answers are there, it's just finding out the right person to ask. And as I work with my new team starting at the beginning of July, we'll be very keen to support you. But even now, any questions can send them to me, and I'll make sure that my team of experts can come back to you to resolve some of the questions.
Yeah. Can I just emphasize what you were saying there, Jonathan, about the Grants Fair, which is next Saturday? The Grants Fair is an opportunity for clubs with projects or clubs requiring support from other clubs to come and present what they would like assistance with, whichever way that assistance goes. To go to the Grants Fair, you do not need to have completed the grant management course. That can be done later. So what John Beer, who is running the Grants Fair, would like is to see a lot of projects which can be discussed and which can be presented at the event next Saturday.
Thanks, Derek, for clarifying that. Thank you.
Great, and I think you mentioned about nothing to be done. That was a question about finding out, though, if you actually need a grant, then you will have needed to have completed the MOU, and that is an online course now, isn't it, to be done? Yes. And that will be talked about, no doubt, at the Grants Fair as well for people who then want a grant. But I would just reiterate that you know, projects for grants is something that it would be great to have for next week. Somebody's asked about Jonathan's email, and if you go to 1080 News, you'll see where his email is, but I think that's been answered. Somebody's saying, am I correct in thinking that each club should have a meeting on our foundation once a year?
Well, I'll answer that, and I'll be surprised why they only want one meeting a year to talk about foundation when it's such an important factor. If you're talking about fundraising and Christmas activities, you're talking about foundation. If it's learning about foundation and you want to have a focus once a year, well, that would be good. I would just say the more focus you put on foundation, the better. But don't bore everybody, because there are aspects of it that are quite technical. but actually, once you've read them a couple of times, well, my own incoming, in my own club at Roxton Valley, the incoming president completed the MOU very, very proudly the other day, and he really said it's not as difficult as he anticipated. So give it a go.
Great. Another question, is there still the $100 per member award for clubs?
Well, John, I saw that, Ian, and I'm not sure what that is. I need to research that and get back to Irene to tell her whether that's there. I'm not aware of that at all.
No, nor am I. I mean, there was an allowance for membership for, and Paul replied earlier that you can apply for some money to promote membership activities. Whether that's the £100 you're thinking about, Irene, I don't know.
Okay, and I guess one more question, or one more point actually that came out of Paul's presentation as well, is My Rotary, because if you have a My Rotary account, then through My Rotary you can find out about not only about membership, public image, but you can find out a lot about foundation, and of course it does give you access to the Learning Centre. Is that? Would you support that, or perhaps you want a separate website? No, I'm only joking. It's right. So let's make that point. And a comment here. Nobody knows what Rotary Foundation means. Why not rename it Rotary World Help?
Well, it isn't that. It is the Rotary Foundation.
Yeah.
So it's a very different thing. I think. Well, I'll admit I'd been in Rotary for 3 years before I knew what the Rotary Foundation was. There you go. And that was a young club, but hadn't really picked up on the importance of it. So if you like, I'm going to start with my own club, because if my own club don't do quite as much as I'd really like them to do, but at least my incoming president has done his MOU, so we're on the way.
I think on a serious point, foundation is a, we have to understand that, we are an organization that's come from America, and foundation is a word that's probably better understood in America than it is here. But it's the name of the organization, and actually lots of people have foundations, so it does make sense. I just noticed that our friend Barry Catchpole has come up with the $100 mentioned is the recommended minimum amount given as a sustaining member, and perhaps that's where it comes from. So thank you Barry for putting us right on that. Okay, we're just about running out of time. We're just about on our time. I don't know if there's any other, apart from one last grants fair boost, is there anything else you'd like to say, Jonathan or Derek?
Can I just make a point which has been made already, and that we live in unusual times, and we're suffering the COVID pandemic, and the impact this has had is to significantly reduce the amount of fundraising within foundation or for foundation. And I would just like to ask the people on this call to think about how the fundraising can be restored to where it was before, because I think we have to move on from where we are now, and we need to start planning to do fundraising as we did in the past, and not fall back into the environment we're in for the pandemic. Yeah, so fundraising, we need to do that. I suppose a final point, just as an advertisement, I'm part of a team which works out what the giving is, and lots of details about how clubs are contributing and where money's going. And that is a report which I'll be passing on to Jonathan in the future, because I'm looking to distribute it much more widely to grow a better understanding of Polio and of the foundation. And so hopefully you will see something in the future.
Thank you. Well, if I could ask you to leave the stage, as they say, that would be great. Thank you. So thank you to everyone who's been on this morning. So Paul and Robert, and also Derek and Jonathan. I'd like to give a thanks also to Anne, who's been backstage, so to speak, looking at all the questions and monitoring all that for us. It's great to hear the team that we've got going forward, and as I said last week, I'm really excited about Rotary coming out fighting for the coming Rotary year, and I have no doubt that we're actually going to grow, and when we sit here next year looking at it, we will have had a really great year. So thank you for everybody who's taken part. Thank you all for being there. I hope you will join us same time, same place next week, when we're looking at public image, and we're also looking at international. So until then, thank you very much, and have a good weekend.